Welcome to another episode of Living on the Cheap and Easy.
Beans, the magical fruit. The more you eat, the more you chew. The more you chew, the better you feel. So let's have beans at every meal.
It's come to our attention that, boy, everybody seems to have beans these days. They are being given out by food distribution centers. Commodity foods are giving them out. And we know that you want to live on the cheap and easy. So today we're going to try to figure out what to do with some of those beans that are around, if not in your cupboard, in your friend's cupboard, in your friend's friend's cupboard, and everywhere all over the country. So we're going to come up with as many ideas as we can to make those beans taste good and be pleasurable to you without costing you any more money than what you already have spent. So anyhow, what's some ideas? What can we do with beans, Barb?
Well, I like garlic in everything. You can never have too much garlic. And I brought along stuff that was in the back of my cupboard that I always have on hand for seasoning other foods to try and make the beans taste better. I have garlic, dehydrated onions, black pepper, parsley, oregano, bay leaves, and basil.
All right then. I bet you we do come up with something pretty darn good with that. Megan, what did you happen to come up with an idea to do with beans?
Alright, I was thinking we could take some instant potatoes and maybe mash them around a little bit and kind of season them up the way we like, building on your spice idea. And make some...
Never too much garlic.
Exactly. Or butter.
Right.
And make some mushy beans.
Okay, who was going to do the ones that were sweet?
I believe that's going to be you.
I'm going to do the sweet beans?
I think so, because Megan's kind of going to be salty, mine's going to be a little spicy.
Maybe we can do 4 sets of beans.
Maybe.
Okay.
Do the sweet and sour with the mustard and jelly.
Oh, there's a good one. Sweet and sour with mustard and jelly. Okay, well, I had a couple of different ideas, but I'm going to go with doing the sweet beans. And I'm going to see what I've got in the cupboard to decide how I'm going to do the sweet beans. So y'all hang on.
What my grandma used to call look-in beans. And so the reason you look a bean or you scan it is because you can have rocks, bugs, dirt, and any other number of assorted foreign objects in your beans because of the way they are processed, harvested, and thrown into bags. You can even see on the bag itself the dust and dirt that was packaged with it. Okay? So what we used to do, the easiest way to do this is to just spread the beans out and actually look at them. Megan, you want to bring your hands in so I can show you what I'm talking about?
Sure.
Okay. So first thing you see that stands out there?
Just rocks.
Got some big rocks in there that don't
Wow.
belong. Okay? So just start sitting stuff you shouldn't be eating off to the side. Keep in mind these are white beans, so you shouldn't have something wrinkly and funny looking like that one in it. These are fairly clean compared to a lot of beans I've seen.
Okay.
But you're still going to find oddballs that don't belong. Do not rinse your beans before you actually cook them because it'll start softening the skin before you want it to soften and they won't cook properly. So the thing to do is look the beans before you start cooking them. And this is it can be a long process, but in the house I was growing up in, it was also a social activity. It was a way to bring the kids into the kitchen and get them to participate with the adults, and we would make a game of it to see how many random foreign objects you could find in your beans, and it kept the kids out of trouble, and they learned a little bit about cooking early on, even if Mom wouldn't let us near the stove. Well, after you get them looked, we need to actually start some water boiling.
I'll get the water started.
All right. Like I said, these are fairly clean beans. Oh, good job.
How much water should I use?
For a pound of beans, I typically use 6 cups of water. You can use up to a gallon, but 6 cups minimum. And then you want to bring the water to a boil, and then add the beans, and then you want to let them boil. For how long would you say? It's been a long time since I've done it.
This is what you wouldn't want to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, you missed part of the conversation. After we were looking the beans, Barb and I were discussing how best to cook them, and we both have different ideas of what's a good time. And you'd be surprised how many different cooks do have a different idea of what a good time is. I'm going to let Barb tell you what she thinks is the best way to cook beans, and I'll tell you what I think is, and you do what you darn well please. How's that sound, okay?
That sounds like a plan.
Okay, Barb, what's the best way to do it?
I actually took notes. You'll have to forgive me for looking at my notes. But this was a long discussion I had very recently as to how to prep the beans before you actually add the seasonings. One method is called blanching the beans. So you take your looked beans and you have them ready, like in a bowl, something that's easy to pour. You want to bring to a boil 1 gallon of water, add 8 tablespoons of baking soda. After the water has boiled, let the baking soda dissolve. And then as you are pouring your beans into the water, you want to turn the heat off at the same time. And just let the beans sit in the boiling hot water with baking soda. Now, the person that explained this to me said it was taking the gas out of the beans. It's a way of, the baking soda actually softens the skin of the bean so that it cooks a little bit better and more thoroughly. If, after you pour the beans in, any of them float to the surface, you want to skim those out. There's something wrong with the beans. Either there's a bug inside of them, or they just didn't grow properly. There's something wrong. They're not going to cook right. So anything that floats, skim it out of the water. And you want to let the beans sit in this hot water until the entire pot is down to room temperature, which is going to be at least 3 hours. Then you can drain them off and rinse them. The method that was described to me was just drain the beans into a colander or a strainer, put fresh water in the pot, put the beans back in the pot, stir them around to get any of the loose dirt that might be on them off, and do that a couple times. And then put the beans back on the stove with the hot in fresh water, bring it to a boil again. That's when you start adding your spices and stuff in and let them cook down with the flavorings going into the beans.
Okay, that sounds pretty good and straightforward. I have 2 different ways that I do them. It kind of depends on the mood I'm in and the company I keep and how much time I've got and how much advance notice. There's the soak them before, the day before.
Okay.
Now you can take them overnight and you can soak them in some water, and they will absorb a lot of moisture, which will soften them. And then you pour that water off and add new water, bring them to a boil, cook them until they are soft and mushy, which may take several hours actually. So be prepared to spend a little bit of time on these. The other way that I do it is sometimes I will put the beans in cold water, bring it to a boil, and then turn the heat off, let it sit for an hour. And then I pour that water off, because remember, like Barb pointed out, those beans are dirty, so you want to pour that water off.
Yes.
And then, so I put fresh water on them, and then I go ahead and I boil them for as long as it takes to get them soft and mushy. Now we have some beans here that we have cooked to the soft and mushy stage. And let me show you what I mean by that. You take it, and if you can pinch that between your fingers, and that's soft and mushy, and you cook them to the soft and mushy stage, or you can do a whole lot with them. So hang on, and we're going to try some of the ideas we were talking about earlier.
Thank you for watching our video. Don't forget to subscribe.